We're giving an opportunity for people who were bullied as children to confront the bullies today on TV. And right now I want you to meet Brenda Burke, who was not just bullied, as far as I'm concerned, terrorized. You were even suspicious today that you even were suspicious about coming on the show, that you thought that there was something else was going to happen to you again.
Yes, I was afraid that she would have something planned. And come to find out, I think she did, but it didn't turn out.
Really? Really? The things that happened to you were things that kind of made me just shudder. Tell us about the thing with the bugs, because I personally am very much afraid of bugs, and the women are, this is one that you might not even want to, it's just...
This is one of the smaller things she did. We always went to camp together at summer, and we lived in the same townhomes, and one night, I got into the cabin and I was going to bed, and when lights went out, you had no control over it. It was done at the main switch, and when they went out, it was black. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and I was always on the top bunk, and I got into bed, and I was just laying there, and I was, getting ready to go to sleep, and all of a sudden, you start doing this and start feeling something, and the next thing I knew, I had things crawling up my legs. I had them biting me. I jumped out of the, I don't even know how I didn't break my legs, and screaming, and nobody could get the lights on or anything, and the counselor's yelling at me to get back into bed, and I didn't want to get back into bed, and Marsha is just dying. I mean, this is like heaven for her, and
she did this? You know she did it?
Well, come to find out, yes. I mean, if anything happened to me and Marsha was around, I knew who did it.
She knew you were afraid of bugs?
Oh, well, probably not so much at that point, but I am definitely afraid of them now. I mean, there were things in my bed that, oh, God, you just can't imagine.
Tell us what happened when you were babysitting.
I started babysitting when I was about 11 or 12, and Marsha had told me she used to tell me scary things. I'm very afraid of the dark. I don't like to watch bad movies, scary movies. And I was babysitting these 3 children, and I started getting these phone calls, and it was about...
But didn't she tell you earlier that about a movie or something? To kind of set you up for this babysitting
Yeah, she told me this scary story that happened to this girl, and how the person was upstairs and he was murdering the kids and she was next. And
the babysitter was calling from the house.
Yeah,
in the story she was telling.
Yeah. Well, I started getting these phone calls, and my parents were having a party and no one was answering the phone, and I'm getting scared, and then the final phone call came, and he was upstairs, and I mean, I just believed it. And I left the house, I left the kids.
Was it her
and
calling?
I ran home.
Was it her calling?
Oh, yeah.
Saying she was in the house?
She sets things up, yeah. I mean, she would set things up for
So you
weeks.
ran out and left the kids that you were babysitting?
My mother dragged me back over there. I mean, I was just terrified. I didn't want to go, but I did.
This was nothing compared to this one incident. You know the incident I'm talking about. Tell us what happened as quickly, because I want to get her out here as soon as possible.
Marsha had moved out to Spring, Texas. I lived in Houston, and she'd called and invited me to spend the night. It had been years since we had really seen each other.
But you were friends, though, at this time, so you'd spend the night at her place and stuff like that?
Not that much at this point. We had kind of split up a little bit.
But you were spending the night at her house this night?
I was going out there. Her mother was going to be playing bridge. Her dad was out of town, and her brother was on a date. And she lived out by the woods, so we had played till dark, and then she's like, well, we really need to get in the house. There's been some, news of this serial killer and this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, God. So we lock up the house, we fix dinner, and then we turn out all the lights, and we go up in her room, and we always played gin rummy, and we're sitting on the floor, and we're playing rummy, and I'm facing the door, and she's got her back to the door, and I thought I saw something, and I looked up, and I just saw like a flash of something, and I got real scared. I said, Marsha, my God, something's in here, and she's blaming it on me, like, oh, you're trying to scare me, and didn't believe it. So she got me calmed down, and she's like, and so we started playing again, and then this butcher knife came through the door, and I looked up, and I couldn't talk. I was just petrified, and she jumped up, and by the time she turned around, it was gone, and you could hear something going down the steps, and she was brave. She was always the brave one, and she says, I'm going to go see what this is, and I hear her go down the steps, and I hear this blood-curdling scream, and falling down the steps, and I'm just standing there terrified. I'm thinking, oh, my God, And so I went to the top of the steps, and Marsha was laying there. There was blood everywhere. There was a knife in her, and there was a knife stuck in? Yes, and there was a man standing at the foot of the steps, and he just looked, he had black on, he had a black ski mask, black everything. And I just screamed, and I turned around and I ran back into her room. I tried to lock the door. There was no lock on the door. I went to the patio. She lived in a Spanish-type house that had a balcony, and I was trying to get off on the balcony. I unlocked it, but there was deadbolts, and I couldn't get out. So I thought, this little voice was in my head going, okay, hide, hide. So I went to the closet, and there was no lock. So I sat down, and I put both my legs on the wall, and I'm holding the thing, and I could hear him come in the room, and I'm sorry.
That's all right. I mean,
I know what it feels like to think you're going to die. And finally, I was hysterical, and they got the doors open, and I finally realized who it was. And they ended up, I wanted to go home, and they ended up giving me some of their mother's medicine, and just putting me to sleep, and they wouldn't let me tell anybody or anything, and I didn't. I'm just glad that I couldn't get the balcony door open, because when I look back, I think I would have jumped. I would have been dead, and Marsha couldn't have lived with that. I think that, I don't know, I don't understand it.
That had to be, you thought you were going to die that night.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
thought she was dead.
And I know what it feels like to die, to be ready to die. I'm not afraid of death now, but at the time I was young, and it was a terror.
What was her reaction when it was over?
I don't think she knew. I don't know if she knew it would go. I don't know. I know. She just was trying to cover her bases. She wouldn't let me tell her mother. She wouldn't.
Are you ready to ask her?
What? What am I going to? Yeah.
All right. As soon as we come back from a break, she'll be out here. Be back in a moment.
Mm.
We're giving a chance for people who were bullied as kids to confront their bullies for the first time. The show has become a little more intense than I actually expected, but very fascinating. And we just heard Brenda tell us her story, and it's time to meet Marsha. Marsha, you ready to come out? Here's Marsha, the lady who faked her own death. All right, you want...
Hi, Marsha.
All right. Marsha, I have to ask you about this, the story about that you planned this whole thing to pretend you died, and it was a terrifying experience. You could hear her telling it.
Right.
What did you think at the time?
Well, it was it was for fun. It wasn't to really, scare her. But we did it.
You didn't think it would scare her?
Well, a little bit, yeah.
And you thought it was fun?
Mm-hmm.
And now, how do you feel about it?
I still think it's funny.
Did you see us on the monitor backstage?
No, I didn't see
You
that.
could hear what she was saying.
Uh-huh.
You could hear that she was crying.
Yes.
And you can...
Well, I feel sorry for her now, but I mean, it was still funny,
She was terrorized to the point of you had to give her a tranquilizer. She was so scared.
I don't remember that part. I do remember her wanting to go home, and we wouldn't let her, because we didn't want her to get us in trouble.
Brenda, you have a chance now. You're face to face for the first time in a while. What do you want to say to her? You can look at her and say it right now.
I just want to know, did something happen to you that would make you do those things? Is this something that is passed down from generation to generation? Is it, I mean, did something happen to you that...
No, no.
It was just...
No.
When was the last time you spoke?
Probably last summer.
You saw each other last summer?
Mm-hmm.
Brenda told us a little bit about you had sort of a trick planned that didn't actually work out. Can you tell us what it was going to be? Or Brenda?
No, we talked this morning. She was at a different hotel than I was. And
you found out what she was going to do? Would you tell us what it was?
She told me that if she could, she had gotten some red paint, and she was going to try to get into my room before I did, and she was going to put red paint in the toilet commode part. Yeah. And then flush it so there'd be red paint, which would make me curious. And I would open it up, and she was going to put a doll head in there.
Yeah, we got to talk to Marsha. We'll be right back in just a moment and talk to Marsha about this. Say it real quickly. You're saying about something about Marsha, what?
I feel she's a psychopath from hell.
What do you want to say quickly, real quickly?
I have a comment for Ray. He sat up there and expected us to believe him when he said he was sorry, and then he said he'd do it all over again, which shows no remorse at all or any sympathy.
Probably looking for a couple quick comments. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that it's really not about, like, when you go to tease somebody, it's not about the joke. It's all a power trip. Everybody in this room, even the people who have been teased and who have been bullied, have power tripped on somebody else.
Yeah, I know. This is something that we've all been to. We're out of time, but I guess the feeling is, Karen, seems like you're sort of remorseful, but you guys don't seem to care, and I hope you'll watch this show, tape it and watch it and see the pain you've caused, and maybe it'll make a difference. Thank you all.